Yo, your picture wall is better than my picture wall.
Well, you're getting there. What do you got up there?
I got Carrie Ann, who's a friend of mine, wearing that tank top.
Yeah, I met her in Pasadena, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Pat there, and then there's me and like another guy that I used to coach there. And then the colored one is the gym, Deca CrossFit.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you got some ways to go. I just
Oh,
finished it. Just finished it a few days ago. And I'm gonna start a new one because I ended up having loads of spares.
oh,
So
look at that.
you're gonna make the new one.
I love
Got
that picture.
got Pat over there, Catherine, yeah, Annie, yeah. So it's
Nice
like it's all
job.
different. Each photo either is like a certain memory, or someone that's like close to me, or has a certain meaning in my life, or just like good friends or whatever. So
That's awesome. It
each of
looks
them have
cool.
yeah.
Makes me like sends me way back to when I was young. I had a picture wall similar to that.
When you were young.
Yes.
How old are you? Oh, you can't ask a woman that. I just did.
How old do you think I am?
I'm gonna go on the game side real quick. Or you've been retired for. We made the CrossFit Games first time in 2011. Let's say you were 24 when you did that. I know you're a masters athlete.
You
You're,
what?
you're a masters athlete?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. 37.
1 year older than that.
Ah, well, I still got 4 years on you.
When I was young, when I was younger.
Yeah. Younger. I think that's the right
Yeah.
word.
Oh, my camera does
Um,
that sometimes. Oh, there we
well,
go.
Michelle, welcome. Michele Letendre. I was trying to say my intro in French. Mon prochain invité, Michele Letendre.
Yeah, ma prochaine
Ma prochaine
invitée.
invité,
Yeah.
Michele Letendre. How do you say
Michel
your last name?
Le Tendre.
Letendre. Oh, my sister lives in Paris, so I should be better at French, but I'm not.
Well,
Six.
French is a hard language to learn. Even people
Uh,
here have trouble.
yeah. 6 times CrossFit Games athlete. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. That means you only competed in the Home Depot Stop Hop Center era and never made it to Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes.
How's your dogs? Are they there?
My dogs are not here. They
Oh,
are downstairs basking in the sunlight because we have some
yeah.
sun today, so they're not here with me. They're
Oh,
good.
those guys were cool. I like hanging out with them
Yeah.
back in Montreal.
Yeah.
Are you still doing your biking?
Still doing the biking, still
Yeah.
doing the swimming. Can't really bike outside right now. Well, that's not true. I can, but I choose not to.
Is
Are
it
you
how
biking
cold is it?
still?
I'm still inside right now. Next week. I'm gonna have my bike removed from the Swift and then set it up for going outside. I think now is good enough to go outside.
Oh yeah. What's the weather like there? So it's not that cold, I imagine.
No, like I wear like this and a small jacket, and yeah, it's like you can easily bike. It's fine. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like us. The problem is there's so much salt and sand and
Yeah.
debris on the roads. I'm just scared of skidding.
Well, what kind of bike do you have? Like a
I
road
have,
bike or a gravel bike? Yeah, but
I
it's
have
like
both. So probably my gravel bike's going to be out before my road bike. But
yeah, you can gravel anytime.
yeah, that's true.
What's your I was trying to. I didn't want to go into it, but what's your sports background?
My sports background is swimming was my first.
Okay,
I
makes
swam
sense.
3 years and then I played water polo for 6.
That makes sense. So you've been to the CrossFit Games 6 times. Your best finish is in 2014, where you took fourth.
Yep.
Yeah, hate to rub it in. You have 2 first place and 1 second place. Your first place at the CrossFit Games was my first event ever filming and shooting the CrossFit Games. And I was shooting because you had the far side of the far left. I was shooting you. Do you remember
Oh,
what the
nice.
event? Do you
So
remember the
all the
event?
amazing pictures of that event, are you?
I shot video for that event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
That was
remember the
great.
event?
Yeah, the pool.
The pool. Can you explain what the workout was?
We had 10 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. I have terrible
10.
memory.
10.
We did 10 rounds, but not 10 full rounds of swimming. I think the first round was like only out.
Only a half. Only a
Yeah.
half. Yeah. So it's the first and last was a half. So it's
Yeah.
actually
So
9 rounds of swimming.
yeah. And we did 3 single bar muscle ups. So single meaning you had to drop off the bar for every rep.
Yeah. Do you know why?
It was a security concern for slipping. A lot of people didn't think that was the right call. Personally, I would not have felt comfortable stringing them together.
All right, let me see. It's been the statute of limitation has gone, so I can say what actually happened 2 days prior.
Yeah.
We were testing the event, and I can't remember who it was. Might have been Chase Ingram. Came off out of the water, did the first bar muscle up, did the second one, and fell and knocked the back of his head in the concrete. I'm not sure it's Chase. It could have been someone else, but yeah, it makes sense. It was Chase. So it's like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Oh, no kidding. Well, a lot of people, I remember a lot of athletes complaining that that was a silly rule. And I was like, I don't understand how that's a silly rule.
It would have
Um,
happened.
yeah,
Someone
it
would have
would have
gotten hurt.
happened for sure. And the only other way that could have been safer is if we had ring muscle ups, because the wood is a little bit more sticky when it's wet,
Yeah.
I would imagine. But even then, like, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was the first event that I won. I mean, it was basically made for me.
Yeah. You also beat Rich Froning by over a minute. I don't think you've ever done that in a workout before.
No, never done
No.
that.
No. Yeah, that was a fun event. It was the first time being at the CrossFit Games. I just remember, like, I've been doing CrossFit for 2 years, I think, and then
Okay.
just the photo of Rich Froning, Jason Kalipa, and Matt Chan, like
Yeah.
black and white.
Yeah.
I was standing. If you crop out of that photo, I'm standing like on the right, and it's like it was so terrifying. Those guys were so big, and I came from like endurance sports.
Yeah. I find it's funny though, because like when you're far away from these people, they look so big. But I find that they are actually way smaller than we think. Like when you're used to
Yeah,
being around that kind of person, like to me, that picture makes them look bigger than they actually are.
yeah. It's just
Yeah,
they're thick. They're
yeah, they're
pretty.
thick, they're big, and they're thick, and
Yeah.
they're powerful. And it's like when you see that, like when I walked into my first CrossFit Games, Nico, I remember thinking like how
I don't
like
belong here.
yeah, it's like whoa, what's going on? Where am
What
I?
was what was that like? So you qualified in 2011. Where was the regionals that year for you?
For us, the regionals was in Toronto.
Yeah,
Um, like qualifying, like the whole experience, or just going to the 2011 games?
just like actually going. Like once you showed up in Los Angeles, checking in at, I guess you're still at the Marriott.
Yeah.
Like what was that like going in there? And there's Annie, there's Julie Fouché, there's
Yeah.
Kristen Clever, Rebecca Voigt, Sam
Um,
Briggs.
yeah, like man, I have bad memory. I do remember my hero wasn't Annie Thorsdottir back then. I mean, like I appreciated her and I knew of her, but for some reason, my heroes were more like Heather Bergeron was there back then,
Yeah,
and Carrie Kepler was there. People probably don't know who she is, but these two women were like my idols because they were mothers. And I was like, I just couldn't believe that these women were able to do what they were doing as mothers, and the idea that I had of a female athlete was being challenged. So when I was there, it was like those two women, and then Rebecca Voigt was a big one too. Kristen
yeah,
Clever was like the first one that I remember being like, holy moly, like she is tiny, and I admired that because I'm also a smaller athlete. So it was kind of surreal, and it was an experience that I don't know how to explain it. Like it just like you really feel, I felt anyway, out of my comfort zone big time. I felt like I was like not in the right place and I was very intimidated. So it wasn't the best experience for me. After the first event was where I was like more comfortable. Like
yeah,
the nerves were so big because I'm so competitive that I wasn't like, oh wow, starstruck. And generally speaking, I'm not like a starstruck type of person, but it was insane to see these women, and that these women acknowledged me, and seeing them and being next to them was like a moment of like, holy crap. But then after the first event, I was like, whoa, I'm good. I can be here. I can hang, and I'm not like the best, but I can.
yeah. The first event that was at Hermosa Beach. I think that
Yeah.
was like the Murph type thing.
Yeah.
Did you swim? You did a little bit of swimming
Yeah.
as well.
We did
Yeah.
swim, and I remember everyone was freaking out because it was like a swim. The distance of the swim was a joke.
The
I was a
200
water polo
meters.
player. Huh?
It was like 200 meters. I
Yeah,
feel
it
like it
was
was
something
nothing.
absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, this is takes away my whole advantage.
Yeah.
I didn't realize at that time because I was like I wasn't smart enough back then. We didn't understand workouts as much as we do now, right? So I was like, oh, I could do this. And I didn't realize what the run in the sand was going to be like. I had no idea. I went into that event kind of like, hopefully I'll swim fast enough that other people won't be catching up to me. But it didn't take very long for them to just like pass me on the first run. And
Yeah.
it just. So it was hard workout for me. Like the run was horrible, horrible.
When did you just like start to feel your footing and feel like, okay, I belong here. I can.
After
Well,
my
I'm looking at your result finishes. Maybe you, maybe you didn't feel like that year.
No, I did. I actually did. So like my after my first year, I didn't know what to expect and I was actually pretty happy with my 25th place. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was like, it's acceptable. I didn't expect that much of myself. I had no idea how I would react because I had absolutely no experience with field type sports. None. So I didn't know how I was going to do with longer events, running, carries, all that stuff. I had no idea. So I just kind of did it. And then after that games, then it was like a professionalizing moment. Like I have to do this, I have to do that. Like I'm going to go back, I'm going to do this. This is where I want to be and what I want to do. And then when I had made some pretty important decisions to kind of help me get professional. And so right then and there, when I was starting to see insane improvements because my training was becoming better and more focused and just overall more professional, like in 2012, I was fully expecting to be, in the top 15, let's say. And then I got a rude awakening. I think that 2012 was a year where I was actually really disappointed with my result, like getting 24th after getting 25th. I was like, no, that was embarrassing to me. But I was getting my footing before that games 2012 because I had made every necessary decision to do that. The one thing that I think that I do regret was how I had treated nutrition. And I think that's why at the games I did so poorly. I just
Like
wasn't
nutrition
doing
over the course of a year, or nutrition game day nutrition.
uh, all of it. Like
Okay.
I went into so after 2011, I was like, I need to lose weight. I had gained a lot of weight. I'm a nervous eater. I wasn't on top of my nutrition as a professional, and so I decided to lose weight. But the way I went about it was all wrong. Like I spoke to someone that wasn't qualified. Got the idea that I needed to eat less, and I ate less, but I was underfed big time. I'm lucky that nothing bad happened. And then went into the games and didn't know how to eat for performance. So I was underfeeding, undereating, just I was crap. Plus my programming back then was not amazing. Like the coach that I had been working with was someone that was working with other people that were bad at gymnastics. And I was good at gymnastics, but I was really bad at running and stuff. So I hadn't exposed myself enough to the things I was bad at. So I had an inflated sense of confidence that was unrealistic.
And yeah, and you. Let me just look how many people. Yeah, you almost took last in one of the events.
Yeah, the
That
obstacle
year,
course.
you did end up beating the two-time CrossFit Games champion, sooner to be CrossFit Games champion, Catherine Sanya Davis' daughter. So
yeah,
there's that. And you did get a sixth place finish though. On what was that? On the chipper.
Oh yes,
It was like a down and back chipper, as far as I
yeah,
remember, like 10 reps of each, like a
yeah,
heavy fat
yeah.
bar
All
thruster
this
or something.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
stuff in 2012 that I was really good at was the CrossFit stuff. And the reason why I had such a big sense of inflated, unrealistic sense of confidence in my abilities is that I had been trained to excel at the open, at regionals. And
Yeah.
so everything at the games that was in line with that, I was super good at. But then everything that is the games, I was garbage at. I remember the worst event was the sled event that it was like a sled and rope climb event, and there was a shuttle sprint before that
Yeah,
one.
the football sled. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that event, I was furious. And that was kind of like a huge turning point when I decided to, like, in the games during the competition, and this is like pretty much midway through the competition, I knew that I had to change everything that I was doing when I got back to training for next year's season. So that's where I decided, I'm like, I need to work with specialized coaching for my weaknesses. And so it's a good year. Like, you need those years, like knowing what I know now and knowing that I didn't want to make a career out of being an athlete. Like, I know that now, but had I not gone through that, I think I wouldn't have learned as many things as I did, you know? So after that, after that event, I became really good at soliciting specialized help for my training.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes is Denzel Washington saying "fall forward," because I feel like you can learn a lot from. You can't learn that much from winning. Actually, you can learn a hell of a lot from losing and
Yes.
your defeats. There's so
Yes.
much to be learned in that in life and in sports.
Yeah.
There's just so much. If you're willing to learn it, and maybe it takes a while for you to grasp what happened.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but then 13, you like you said, you won an event, and you kind of like obviously that means you have a white. No, did they have the white jerseys in 13?
No, not then.
Oh,
No, I know.
that's
I
so.
missed all the good things.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
But then you came back, and then you broke the top 15 in 13, obviously,
Yep.
and then 2014, where it's like then you kind of became a household name. Um, your friend and countryman Camille Leblanc-Bassinet won the CrossFit Games
Yep.
in impressive manner, and you came fourth.
Yep.
Is coming fourth, 6 points behind Julie Fouché. How does that sit? How did that sit with you, and how does that sit with you?
Um, it sits fine. It sits perfectly
Fine.
fine.
I'm
Like,
fine.
obviously, having a podium is something that I wish I could have had, but I learned a lot about myself throughout, CrossFit and competition and stuff like that. And one of the things that I learned is that I'm not a outcome driven person. And so that's why it sits fine with me. I think that if I was someone that was really outcome driven and really perfectionist and really all about winning and this and that, I think that would not have sat fine with me. And things would probably be different. Maybe I'd have a really sour taste in my mouth and I would have retired and gone and done something else. But in reality, I learned something to me. So I learned about myself that year because when I finished fourth, when I did that event, like the last event of 2014, it was kind of, I knew it was an event that if I beat Julie, that I would be on the podium. Um, I think that it
And
didn't taste.
the final event was thick and quick, going into double grace. So it's like
That's exactly right.
fat rope climbs, heavy overhead squats, and then a second workout announced on the floor by Dave Castro, 30 clean and jerks first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I knew it was an opportunity to make the podium, but when I didn't, because after that double grace, I sat on the floor, and I remember having, back then Ben Bergeron was my coach, and he was right behind me. And I remember the first thing I said to him was like, I couldn't have done anything better. Like, there's nothing, I left it all out on the floor, quite literally. And
Yeah.
when I found out that I was fourth by 6 points, there was a little bit of disappointment, just a tad bit. But when I realized that it really wasn't how I identified myself, like, Michele Letendre is not a games athlete. Like, being a games athlete is part of Michele Letendre, but it's not my whole reason for being.
No.
And I remember when we were in the testing room, like post-competition drug tests, Josh Bridges was also fourth, and he came and sat beside me, and he said to me, "Doesn't it suck?" And I remember saying, like, no, it doesn't. I'm actually really happy right now. And then he kind of, I think he felt bad for saying that, because for him it sucked, but for me it was the best I'd ever done. So I felt really proud of what I've achieved. So yeah, okay, like, I wasn't stepped on the podium, but I had a really good competition. And considering kind of the up and downs that I had gone through, I was really proud of myself. But I did realize, like, that's not a normal competitor's reaction. I think
No.
a normal, like a Patrick Vellner reaction, a Matt Fraser reaction would have been to be really upset and frustrated. But I was completely the opposite. So I think I realized very quickly that although I want to compete and want to climb up the leaderboard and be the best I can, and I want it to be known, I wanted to have an impact and all these things. Winning the games was just not like the end all be all.
No. And for my listeners out there, we are going to talk about the coach Michele in a bit, but now
Yeah.
we're talking about the athlete Michele. And yes, we are going to talk about Uncle Pat. Actually, that year, 2014, not taking anything away from Michele, amazing victory. I would just have loved to see a full weekend, her going toe to toe with Cara Webb, now Cara Saunders. I would have loved to see that because I think it could have been an insane battle. Who were, at the end of the day, like Jeffrey winning this year over Roman, you got to stay injury free. That's part of sports. It's just
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
Injuries happen, and don't crash your bike. Sorry, Pat. And don't trip. It's part of it. You won an event that year, Friday Night Lights. I had my whole family sitting in the stands. I wasn't working. I was just got to watch an event, and this is my all-time favorite event of the CrossFit Games. Especially in the men's side, the race was pretty close between Josh Bridges and Rich Froning.
Yeah.
Josh coming out on top, but it was kind of where Rich came back and like cemented his fourth.
Yeah.
Do you remember the event?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I knew that event was going to be good for me. I love that event too. I mean, like overall, just that type of event is fun, right? You do handstand push-ups and sled pulls. So something that I'm really good at, and which is the handstand push-ups, but then the sled pull is something that's so iconic of the CrossFit Games. Like you don't get to do those things in other floors other than the games. And on top of that, there's this element of gradual increase of difficulty. Right? If I'm not mistaken, the deficit went up, right? Like
yes. So like the number, you had these mats where numbers were on, and each time you had to do more reps or less reps or whatever, but you flipped another mat on, so it added an extra inch every time.
So
and
you
were you weren't winning for a long time. You weren't on camera until no handstand push-ups was shown from you. Only the last one you were kicking down, because like Val Vobril, was winning, but then she got to that, I don't know, 8-inch deficit. It was like,
I can't even
that just
remember.
wasn't happening. And Camille was doing singles.
Yeah.
Camille LeBlanc was doing singles. So it was like,
yeah. So I did that whole workout unbroken, I think. Or I did it strategically so that I can do unbroken last round. Because like I said, like actually my history with handstand push-ups is that I've always done them strict. And then I learned to kip at the games when they gave us a deficit parallel handstand push-up in 2012, and I didn't know how to kip.
Yeah.
So for me, the strict component was like, oh, great, finally, So I love that event. And the sled pulls, I can't do sled pushes super well, but I can pull. Like I played water polo, I swam.
Yeah.
So my pulling is really strong. And so I didn't know that I would win it. I knew that I would do really good at. And so when I saw kind of that the girls were breaking up the last ones, because I got to the handstand push-ups, and I think the top girls of the heat were already on them. And I remember seeing from the corner of my eye, one of the leaders kicking down. That probably was Val Vobril, but I was like, yeah, this is mine. I'm going to win this. And so I went up and I did all my handstand push-ups unbroken, and then ran back to the sled and never pulled as hard as I did it ever in my life. And I think that's like one of the moments that I'll never forget. Winning a Home Depot or StubHub Center Friday night event is quite magical. The stands are full.
It's insane.
It was short enough that everyone was screaming the whole time. Like everything about that event was fantastic. It was great. And the way I jumped onto the platform wasn't super.
You almost fucked it up. You almost fucked it up.
My leg got caught in the rope.
No, but you forgot to get up.
Yeah.
It was like your judge was screaming at you.
Yeah, it wasn't that long of a delay. In my defense, like it wasn't that long. I laid down, it touched, and then the judge is like, jump, and I'm like, oh right. but then my leg got cut in the rope, and I kind of rolled onto the platform. So it wasn't the
Yeah.
most like amazing finish, but it's one of the best memories I have of that stadium. And there's a lot of really cool moments in that stadium, and one of them too is like a little bit later on where I come back from behind, and I think I win my heat in double DT, and I think that was my
Yeah.
last year. But like that tennis stadium is so electric, and the anyway, it was fantastic. So yeah, 2014, that workout is probably one of my favorite.
Yeah.
And like yeah, it was electric. It's
I
really cool.
remember. I remember when Brent won. What was it called? 100%.
Yeah,
In that was. I think that is the loudest it has ever been. Apparently.
yeah, it was pretty
Uh,
crazy.
the next year you were still in back on the beach, and you took your first second place ever at the CrossFit Games. Do you remember the
Yeah,
event?
that was the swim event, right? With the
The pier paddle.
right.
Yeah, that was the one where they spotted a shark during the
Oh,
event.
I didn't
Yeah,
even know that.
no, that was it was a terrible event to watch. I gotta say, it was
Yeah,
so long. And yeah,
yeah. Those
um,
events are hard to watch, but they're fun to do.
yeah, yeah. I bet. I gotta ask. In those years, we gotta talk fashion. Like, what was going on?
Who?
Fashion and your
Passion.
I was just watching the push pull. You're wearing a long sleeve crop top and a 5-inch headband.
Yep.
Yeah, that was yeah,
I
those
didn't
were the
care.
days.
I just didn't care. And to be fair, the uniforms we were given, I mean, like I kind of wish Noble was around back when I was competing, but that was it.
Yeah,
We had lime green shoes and purple and yellows and obnoxious. And I wear in life, like right now, I'm wearing a pair of black jeans and a black
yeah.
sweater, and that's pretty much what I wear.
You and I basically wear the same clothes.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just awful. But back then, I think it was just like when you're that confident, like not gonna lie, like I was a confident person. I am a
Yeah,
confident person, but when you're that confident and you're on the floor, I don't know, just you make decisions and you just go with it. And by that time, like it's Friday night,
Friday
like
night. Yeah,
you bring all your outfits for the day and then you kind of just are left with whatever's left because you want to
yeah.
change. And there are some practical limitations to having the outfit that you want. You know, we didn't have locker rooms back then. Like we didn't have all of that.
Wow.
So yeah, fashion was awful.
Let me just find here. So basically, you took fourth in 14, and then you had a drop off to 18th in 15, and then your sixth and final year. Do you remember what you took there?
I think it was 16th, I think, right?
16th.
Yeah.
Did you know? Let me just bring up some names here. For you're actually sandwiched in between Tesha Persovitz and China Cho, who would go on to win the CrossFit Games with Rich Froning on team.
Yeah.
Um, did you know that was it?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. In 2015, I was going to stop. And I had a really terrible year. You know, it was the Murph incident. Like everyone kind of
Yeah,
overheated. I had pretty bad overheating and sun related injury that went kind of untreated. And I felt like absolute garbage, not even feeling like absolute garbage. It felt like after Murph, there's not much I remember.
no,
It was like a long day. It was like one long day. I don't remember. The only thing I remember after Murph was that we did the snatch event and
the
I
snatch
could
speed
barely
ladder.
hold
Yeah,
on to a bar. My hands were raw, and I grabbed bar, dropped it, finished. I finished the Friday of 2015 in fourth place, if I'm not mistaken. I was in the top 10. I
yeah,
was in a really good position, and then every single event after that was basically fighting for survival. I could
yeah,
barely squeeze onto anything. There was a jump, there was like an obstacle course race that we had to jump over hurdles. And it was a great event. When I saw that event, I was really excited about it because I actually had been working with a sprint and agility coach and I had been
yeah,
doing hurdle jumps. But I guess I just couldn't jump over any of the obstacle. I couldn't jump high enough. And no matter how hard I tried, it was like I couldn't. And one of the things that I hated the most is that after that games, my coach told me that it was like as if I wasn't trying, but I had physically nothing left after that
No.
Friday after Murph. I had nothing left. So after that games, I remember walking away from the stadium and I was with my boyfriend and I just told him like, I'm not going to train one more year to feel like this. This is it.
No.
I'm done. I don't feel like this was like this. The reaction was, this is unfair. I trained so hard and we did this thing that I just couldn't physically recover from. And it just felt like a waste, you know? And to be fair, again, knowing what I know now, CrossFit did a terrible job back then at making sure that we were safe. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of normal. It's a new sport. They don't have as much experience, but there should have been some level of safety regard for the athletes, maybe looking at other sports that compete in high heat situation, things like that.
Yeah.
But that was like just a lose, lose, lose situation. Everyone lost there. And I walked out of that the Stub Up Center, telling my boyfriend that I was going to stop. So I was fully minded to stop and not do 2016. And then after thinking about it a little bit more, I said to myself that I was going to have a better year. 2015 was the year that I realized like I had big ambitions. Like I had just come off of fourth place. I was like, I can win the games. And that was kind of inauthentic. It caused my year of training in 2015 to be really it wasn't enjoyable at all. And then that happened. So I was like, ugh, you know, and then 2016, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on my terms and I'm going
Yeah.
to enjoy it. And I'm going to do it one last hurrah. I'm going to ride the train for as long as I can, ride the wave, plan out what I'm going to do post athlete career, use that last year to kind of build a hype. And 2016 was like my last year, and I knew it was going to be my last year, and I knew I was going to get into coaching. I just didn't know in what capacity I was going to get into coaching, but I was fully at ease with the decision, and I felt like it was the best one.
That sounds like a very, yeah, I like the way you said it, like going out on your terms. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It-
is
it-
being a is
yeah.
being a CrossFit Games athlete, is there something to be said about if you don't have the right people in your corner, can it be dangerous both physically, but more so than that, mentally?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, I'm an example of that. Like in 2012, I lost weight. I lost weight because it was a very practical and very necessary decision. Like I hadn't been taking care of my nutrition. I had gained weight because I was an overeater. I didn't have the right lifestyle. I was really much on my own. And then I told my coach back then that I wanted to lose weight, and I listened to him rather than going to go see a professional. I listened to him, lost a ton of weight, but did it in a way that was extremely dangerous. And lucky for me that I am, generally speaking, a confident person. I've never had eating disorders. I've always been a pretty realistic person, but I did fall into some unreasonable and unhealthy patterns. And I was able to bounce back off of that when I realized that no, professionally, I need to see a professional nutritionist in order to be good at this. I can't just do it with his suggestions because clearly it didn't work. So I was smart enough to realize like I need to go see a professional. But, you know, having that same situation with someone who's had an eating disorder, someone who, you know, is extremely self-conscious and insecure and doesn't have maybe a more mature and professional way of doing things could really fall into some dangerous patterns. We've seen it. I've seen it. So had I not had a good support system, like on a personal level, like myself being more mature, I guess I was older when I found the sport, but also my boyfriend was like, this isn't normal. Like, that's not normal. You shouldn't be eating a cup of spinach and 2 eggs for breakfast. And him pushing me to see some professionals
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I think that, yes, like my close surrounding helped me see things straight. And yes, in a situation where the athlete is more prone to influence, like it's super dangerous. But that's not just our sport. That's every sport, every sport, every young mind that has like a talent. People will whether they know it or not, they will try to influence that talent towards what they think is best. And the most of the time, hopefully the intentions are good. But yeah, no, for sure. Like, and I, I can't speak for others because we don't know what others people's surroundings are like and how other people are. But I do think that there are a lot of talents that weren't able to see compete because there's been maybe an entourage that was less than ideal.
I feel like back when you were competing and back in 2011, 2012, speaking about mental illness, mental struggles, especially for women, wasn't something you would do, especially when it came to eating. That's kind of taboo for women. For men, it's more speaking about the mental health. And there's been such a shift in society the past, I want to say, like 4 years.
Yeah.
And this can come out wrong, but like seeing Mal make her decision to leave the sport, at least for now, and seeing Haley Adams leave the sport last year and coming back, that's such a mature decision. And the way I even heard Mal's interview and the way she phrases it, it's like, I'm so happy to see people do that and not get sucked into whatever glam and glory there is there. Because Mal, yes, she has the potential to win the CrossFit Games. There's no doubt about it. But she still has that potential in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And a happy Mal is going to be dangerous. And I'm pretty excited to watch Haley Adams. Like if
Me too.
if she was that good when she felt like she says she's feeling, I want to see what she can do mentally healthy.
Yeah, I think that it's a very good point. I don't like mental health became a popular thing during COVID because it was like
Yeah.
everyone kind of said that's enough.
Yeah.
I think all of us can agree that at one point, it's enough. And one of the things that I find really important is that the trend here isn't when we see these girls or these guys or people, athletes say, like, I need to focus on my mental health. We focus so much on them and like, oh, they can't take it. They're not professional. They're this and that. But there's a whole system that has forced them to kind of keep going even when they didn't want. And I think there's an issue there. I think culturally people are drawn to performance and it's hard to say no to those things and understand long term when you're in it. So I think there's a really good opportunity here to take those experiences, and I'm going to speak really just to our sport, but there's a really interesting opportunity that we can capture here based on their experiences, because right now the sport of CrossFit is young right now, and I'm pretty isolated, so maybe what I'm going to say isn't true and that there is systems, but there doesn't seem to be a organized, controlled approach to the young professional athlete in this sport. And I'm looking at other sports like tennis, for example, that has a junior series. Hockey has junior World Series. All of these other sports that have been around forever have created a platform for young athletes to progress through the channels in order to become a professional. And we don't have that yet. No. We had the games and then the individuals, and then that was kind of it. And so once you were a teen and you went to the games as a teen, then there was this huge gap and whatever, and this pressure to stay in the limelight, because there's this idea that if I'm long away from this limelight, I'm going to lose my personality, my popularity. I won't get the right kind of sponsorships. And there's this whole idea of I got to make it when you're young in a world that isn't it's not like supported the way it should be. So I think we need to see this as a way of maybe like a light bulb moment where we need to create some kind of structure and platform and support system for these young athletes, for them to last longer and to pace themselves a little bit better for their future athletic career. I don't have the answers as to how that's going to be. I don't know. I'm just hoping that the appropriate people will kind of see that and say, well, we need to do that for them. And I think that the pit team throwdown is potentially a good opportunity to do that, so that they can have people gravitating in that specific arena and allow for the proper professionals to take on these athletes in a more, holistic way.
Well, let's see. Well, there is a lot of people working on those types of things, but then again, the sport is young, and like you say, They want to stay in the limelight because they don't want to lose followers. Followers equals opportunities and
Yeah.
sponsorships and stuff.
Yeah.
The problem is, it might be correct. You don't want to leave the spotlight because you might lose followers.
Yeah.
Instagram is a very unforgiving social media platform.
I think that
But
that's a fair point. But at that time and at that age, even on Instagram, the money isn't there for them to make that type of decision.
no,
So a follower doesn't equals money necessarily. And I might be wrong. Like I'm in Canada, things are different here. But I think that like I do think that there's a huge role on the parents in this situation. I feel like there's a lot of parents that need to potentially look at their role in the professionalization of their child in the sport. But the whole thing about the followers, it's just like, that's another thing. Like, do you get into the sport of CrossFit because you want sponsors or because you love the sport of CrossFit? Like,
I guess you start, but
you have to love it though. Like you have to love the sport. Like the love of the sport has to be bigger than your love of sponsors. Otherwise you won't survive the rigors of the sport, which comes with pressures like sponsors and things like that. That's something that happens because you're good at it. But if you lose the spark and if you lose your love of the game, to me that's like it just makes the value of what you're doing kind of not the same. So I think that anyway, my thoughts on this whole system, that I do feel like it's a no-brainer for the amount of pressure that Mal was under, that she would kind of step away from that. Like at 17 years old, you're being compared to the best athlete that has ever been around on the female division. No 17-year-old can take on that type of pressure. I don't think you've developed that level of maturity yet. You don't have that many life
no.
experiences at 17 years old. So to me, it's like it is a no-brainer that she took that step away. Like I
Yeah.
agree with you in saying like, yeah, it was the right decision. Like
I
no
hope
one,
we see her back. I want to see her back.
yeah, so do I.
But I only want to see her back if she wants to be back. Like
Of
it's it's
course.
it's it's it's, it's dual. Like both emotions can coexist. Like of course I want to see her because I. Then again, if she comes back in a year, maybe Tia is going to stop, and we won't get to see someone dethrone
But
Tia.
but that's unimportant. That's like something
No.
other people put importance on.
Yeah,
Um,
it's me as a journalist. You always think of the story, but then people tend to forget there is people behind that story.
uh-huh.
Like last year, 2 years ago, Lauren Fisher almost had an injury and couldn't be on the team. Her substitute would have been Catherine Tanya Davis' daughter. As a journalist, you kind of want to see Annie Thor's daughter and Catherine Tanya on the same team. That's a
Yeah.
perfect story. That's like it couldn't be better. But like, no, I want to see Lauren. She's worked her ass off for this. I want to see her compete,
Yeah,
and she
100%.
did.
Lauren doesn't get the recognition she deserves. She's like,
I do. This
yeah,
year, I have the perfect story and what I want to see. The perfect story would be for Patrick Vellner to finally win the CrossFit Games, and there's nothing me and the people would rather want to see. I think if you ask everyone who do you want to win the CrossFit Games, he would have the vast majority of votes. Like
yeah,
then the other guys can win. Ricky's going to have his time. Roman's going to have his time. It's fine.
yeah,
Just
yeah. I
just
agree with you on that, and I think that. But I mean, I can't speak for Pat. I know Pat wants to win, and I know that he's
let's
doing
speak for
it.
Pat.
Sorry.
Let's just speak for Pat. It's fine.
Yeah, but Pat's like a bigger person than CrossFit. Like Pat's like he's way less like he's not like me where it's like, I didn't make the podium, whatever, I don't care. But I like Pat wants to win. He's training to win. He wouldn't be doing this if he didn't want to win. Like the amount of pounding that he takes in, like, we have different training blocks, and anyone who competes at a later age, at an older age, knows that like those intensification blocks, they're hard. And when you age, they get harder because you can do more, and you can, like, he's developed such a baseline. It's incredible. But yeah, I think he can. I know he can.
Yeah.
I would love to see it happen. I really would. I think that Pat has got a lot of tricks up his sleeve still. I think Pat is a sharp competitor. And yeah, I would love to see that too. Man, wouldn't that be amazing?
We'll get back to Pat. And yes, Pat, we did call you old, but we still love you. Okay, we're gonna wrap up your athlete career here. You said you weren't outcome based. How do you leave the sport? How do you look back on Michele Letendre, the athlete? Are you proud? Do you feel like did you leave it all on the floor?
I did. I don't think I could have done much better, to be fair. I think that I don't have the switch in the head to go so hard in training that could have helped me do better, right? Um, what I like when I look back in my athletic career, what I appreciate is that over the 6 years that I competed, 6 years,
Six.
um, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the things that I was really good at. I learned also about, like, what I appreciate the most is the perspective it gave me, knowing what it feels like to be on the floor and being slightly different maybe than athletes that we think, because I don't believe that athletes are all out there to win it. Like, I think some people will say that because that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes probably struggle with mental health because of that, because they think that they should be there to win, but really they're maybe there for different reasons. Like, it's okay to have a lot of talent and want to compete and explore a part of you without necessarily wanting to be a professional and the top level and this and that. So, and then other people will say this person has a lot of potential. They could potentially win the games or do a top 10 and this and that, but that's their vision of their potential versus what athletes feel. So for me, it's given me a lot of perspective in that way. It helps me understand athletes. It helps me understand why people do certain things. That's why I have a strong feeling towards people doing things that they love. Like, I did CrossFit as a sport because I really loved it. I loved doing it. I loved learning. One of the things I love the most about being an athlete is doing training sessions with different specialty coaches. That was my favorite part about being a CrossFit athlete, is that I got to see an agility coach. I got to see an Olympic weightlifting coach. I got to see a powerlifting coach. All of these people with these specialties gave me so many things to think about. And so it was a very enriching experience. And that's what I love the most. So when I look at my athletic career, I'm very, very happy that I've gone through that, because today, I don't know if this is just because over the years people have sought out that kind of expertise and have centralized it, but I don't see that today anymore. I find that's kind of sad, because that's the beauty about being a CrossFit Games athlete, is that you get to do all kinds of sports in one.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of what I've done. I wouldn't have changed very much, because I don't think I'd be here today talking to you if I had changed a lot. And my only regret is, I don't know. I don't even think I have any regrets. I think I started at the right time. I think I finished at the right time. Like, podium would have been great, but whatever.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
In your last question about your athletic career, in your era, 11 to 16, who is the three best female athletes? So essentially before that crazy Australian came into the sport and dominated.
The best athletes in my era.
Yeah.
Sam Briggs in my era was, and not for her, like, Sam Briggs had a head. If I had Sam Briggs' head, like her head.
Talk about a crazy switch. She had one.
If I had her head, I think I would have won the games multiple times. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think Sam Briggs was right up there. In fact, one of the things that I said when I got fourth, because that's the year Sam Briggs didn't qualify.
Right.
And one of the first things I said after that fourth place, I said, I wish Sam would have been there so that I could see where I, stacked up against Sam. I think Annie Thorsdottir was really just, amazing. And
she did have 5 podiums in that era.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she did. And then the other one, especially at the beginning, was oh my goodness, I forgot her name.
Kristen Clever?
I feel terrible about this, but there was one of the girls in the beginning of my career. I was like, if I can beat her, I'll be on top. Julie Fouché is there. but to me, Julie Fouché was so far from me. Like she was so much better than me that I couldn't see myself competing against her. So I guess in that sense, I think Julie was she's probably in that top three for me.
Who are you talking about? Kristen
Ah,
Clever, Jenny Lebar?
nope.
No.
Oh my goodness. She was in 2010 in on the podium, I think.
We'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, man.
No, 2010. That was Val Voberul, Annie Thorisdottir, and Kristen Clever.
Who was fourth or fifth or sixth?
Julie Fouché is fifth, and then Jessica Pemainen? No. Got Hilda Bergeron, Rebecca Voigt,
No.
Christy Phillips.
Yes.
Christy Phillips. Okay, we know her as Christy Atkins.
Yes, Chris.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So I knew her as
Yes.
Christy Phillips, but like when I started competing and when I was like seeing myself as a competitor, I wanted to be at Christy Phillips's level. And yeah, but like, I mean, there were so many really good girls, but yeah, I think Julie Fouché, Annie Thorisdottir, and then who's the third one I said?
Sam Briggs.
Yeah, Sam Briggs, the first one. Yeah. Sam Briggs. I think those girls were all really, and obviously, I mean, fuck, there are so many. Like Lindsay Valenzuela was like in the middle of those years was like a top dog, like back then the California girls, the American girls were like the girls to beat,
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen an American. I think that's coming back to Mal, that pressure of being the first American to win since Kristen Clever. Yeah, in 2010.
No.
To win
To
the
win,
games?
yeah.
To win,
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. Like she was hardly even born when that happened.
Yeah, that's
Like
crazy.
it's been
Mel is so young.
All right. We're now going to switch, and we're going to talk to the owner of Deca Comp. What does Deca Comp mean?
Deca means 10 in Greek.
It does.
Deca CrossFit is like the first iteration of that. So like Deca CrossFit, the name was actually invented and found by my boyfriend who opened Deca CrossFit with his best friend back in 2012. And so I competed for Deca CrossFit from like 2013 to the end of my career. And in fact, my boyfriend is Fred, his best friend is Maxim, and Maxim was like my first ever sponsor. He gave me some money so that I can, work less and train more. And so when I started to think about post-career, what I was going to do, I know that I was like, it's going to be with Deca. It's going to have the word Deca in it. So Deca Comp was born.
Yeah, and
Deca Comp is short for Deca Competition.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we originally said was the closest thing we've ever had to the fittest on earth before CrossFit would probably be at the Decathlete.
Yeah.
Which is 10 different at the Olympics. Do they still have it at the Olympics?
They do, and it's so impressive. Yes, they do. It's probably I think I don't follow all of their events, but I find them fascinating to watch on the track. But they're fully there. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. But yeah, so how did you because you were one of the first female coaches on at least top tier if we're going to the CrossFit Games. And most people will know you as the coach of this guy, Pastor Vellner.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, first Deca Comp started in my head in 2016. Like I was going to launch Deca Comp and my goal was to, I love to teach. So my goal was to help people become smarter competitors. I wanted to provide a programming that was a little bit more thoughtful and athlete oriented that existed out there. And so I knew I was going to do that. My first taste of coaching was during an invitational. They invited me as a coach in Madrid. And I can't remember if it was 2016 or 15. I think it was 15.
You know who you met for the first time?
You?
Yeah.
In Madrid.
Yeah, but that was the first time we hung out. Yeah.
Oh man,
that was so much. That was so much fun.
It was fun.
That was the best trip ever.
Yeah, Madrid was great, but like that was my first taste of coaching, and I was like, I like this. I feel better here than I do on the floor.
So who was on the team there? Camille. Lucas
Uh,
Parker, Alex Vigneault,
yeah, Alex, Lucas, Camille, and Emily Abbott.
Emily Abbott. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so I love that experience. So after that, I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. And so the whole 2016 was kind of like in my head that I wanted to do that. And when we were training for the game, me and Patrick Vellner became friends. When he qualified for his first individual athletes, we became friends. And he lived in the city because he studied in university in McGill in Montreal. So
yeah.
when he graduated, there was like a moment in his like in that time that he applied to go to Toronto to school, but that only started in the end of the summer, like September, August.
Yeah.
And then his graduation happened, and so he was kind of homeless for a moment in the summer. And so I invited him to stay with me and Fred. We had a house that had an extra bedroom, and I said, well, we're going to train for the games, let's make it work, and we'll live and train together. So he accepted, and he came with us to live, and we trained together for the games that summer. And we had a
2016. When he
2016,
qualified.
yeah, we had a great time.
Did he qualify with a torn biceps?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
He tore his bicep. And I mean, in all things considered, it was like the best case scenario for that injury. It was like a torn bicep that wasn't necessarily impeding him in very much. He just had to re-stabilize his joint kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he did all the rehab, but I would never have known. Like training with him was like, he didn't look injured at all. But we trained together all summer, competed, and then the invitational happened. And so after the games, we kind of went our own separate ways. He moved to Toronto, started his schooling over there. And then when we were invited to do the invitational that was in Oshawa in Canada, which is like a gift from whoever, like it was so amazing to do my last ever competition in Canada.
And that team
But I had
is
made it.
That's Pat, Patrick Vellner, Brent Fikowski, you, and Caroline Riesen-Thibault.
Yeah, that's right. That was our team, and Camille was our coach. And so during that competition, we reconnected, and then at the after party, I just kind of, shot. I went for the shot, and I asked him if he was looking for a coach, and if so, if he wanted to work with me, I would love to work with him. And like I keep saying this, people ask me a lot how we started working together, but that was a really stupid idea. I didn't realize what I was asking, because he got second or third in his first ever appearance. And so the risk second.
Third. Ben Smith took second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The risk of taking a podium and level athlete as a first athlete, kind of not knowing what I was doing, was super, super. Anyway, the ignorance is bliss, I guess.
Well, you know what? Your countryman Wayne Gretzky once says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That is 100% true. And to be honest, it made me learn very quickly a lot about coaching. And lucky for me, Pat is a hard person to work with, in the sense that he'll challenge things. He challenges everything he has doubts about. Like he's very opinionated about his training, which is wonderful. I was like that as well. Some coaches took it negatively, but really it's a defense mechanism, and it's also like you want to have control over what you're doing in your life. So that's like when you have a coach giving you things, and you are somewhat of a control freak, you're like, well, what the fuck is this? So Patrick challenges quite a bit, and he's very open and honest about how he feels about things. And so for me, it was a very good learning experience, because all of a sudden I had someone that was very much involved in my process, versus beforehand, I was like, when you're an athlete, you do as you're told. Like I'm a good athlete in that sense. I'm not always the best athlete because I complain a lot, but I'll do what I'm told. And then all of a sudden you're telling people to do something, and it's like, well, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point here? What am I doing? And over the years, as we've gotten comfortable, he does it even more. But it was a great learning experience. And he's also a really good partner. Like he's very open-minded to trying new things. And he as long as he knows where I'm going, he's willing to try things with me. And I'm a pretty creative person. I like to try things. So he's been really a good partner and has allowed me to learn a lot. And I'm just really lucky that he's super talented and extremely hardworking.
So the year after that, your first year of coaching at the CrossFit Games must be 2017. Obviously, Matt Fraser won. Matt Fraser always wins. Second place, Brent Fikowski. And now we get to third place. You just mentioned Emily Abbott, and that leads me to my next question. I think you know where I'm going with this. Emily Abbott tested positive about, I think she left the sport after that. Anyways,
Yeah.
Patrick Vellner took fourth place on the field of play. He was beaten on the field of play by Ricky Gerard.
Yeah.
We were later to find out Ricky had tested positive for Endurable, as I remember. Well, that doesn't matter anyways.
No.
How did you get the news, first of all, and how did that make you feel? How did that sit with you back in 17?
When he was beat, or when we found
No,
out?
when you heard about Ricky.
Yeah, I think we found out about it at the Invitational. I think, or it was before. I can't remember. At the Invitational, he was awarded his third place. Like by
Right.
then, we had found out, and I can't remember. I can't remember actually. At the Invitational, it was in Australia, and I remember watching that, and they did um, a ceremony for him.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I've had other experiences with positive testing. 2017 was kind of like a funny year like that, because I think one of our other athletes, ours, got tested positive, and it was a master's athlete, and that was like a really hard hit.
Yeah.
And so being on the opposite side of that, where you find out that someone who beat your athlete tested positive, to me it's frustrating, because you work so hard all year. Like Patrick works so hard. I don't think people understand how hard it is to actually do that stuff, especially that Patrick works part-time and has like this whole life, so all of his minutes are counted for.
Yeah.
And to not be able to celebrate that at the competition is a bust. I
Yeah.
think that the next best thing would, like, I'm glad that they announced it. I'm glad that he was caught, because now, it's like, well, imagine if we didn't know, and he would have got fourth, thinking that year it would have gotten fourth. But anyways, long story short, like, I'm happy it was publicized and this and that. Like, and this is nothing against Ricky. Like, I don't know Ricky. Like, we're not close or anything. I have a big issue with cheating. Like,
Yeah.
I struggle with it a lot. I think, like, a lot of people I found were really good to give him a good chance, a second chance. I struggle with that a lot. So yeah, I don't know. It just sucks. It is what it is, and things turned out the way they did. I was very happy for Pat that he was able to have that third place. I think for me, it was kind of a scary year, knowing that, like, oh man, I got him from second to fourth, like, ooh, I was a little bit nervous about it, but to me, what's more important is how Patrick feels. So
Yeah.
when, Patrick is a very mature person, and so he didn't make a fit about that. So, I mean, all in all, like, I'm kind of neutral about that whole situation, aside from I'm happy that he was caught, and I'm happy that Pat was able to get that podium spot, even though it's retroactive. But there's nothing that anyone can do about that. If you cheat, you podium, and you get caught, it sucks for everybody. And that's kind of like something that obviously they're not going to think about, because they're taking steroids to cheat. They're not going to think about, but what if I get caught and I take away the medal from the other? Like, that's not, so it sucks for everybody, but at least they test, and at least they get caught.
Is there a road to redemption? Should there be the road to redemption?
Can you explain that to me?
Well, as of right now, the ban is 4 years. I think it's only 2 years if you miss a test. There's different, like, but in general, it's 4 years. Is that a sufficient penalty, punishment, whatever you want to call it,
I
or
don't
or
know.
should it be lifetime?
I don't know. I think after twice, like, I guess being so stern about that stuff, to me, it's like, I can't trust people who have been caught doing it. I struggle with that a lot. Like internally, I struggle with that a lot. And that's, like I said, it's nothing against Ricky. I've met Ricky multiple
No, we're
times.
just using him as a yeah
Yeah,
example.
like
Yeah.
he's a nice person, but I do struggle with it. That being said, I try very much to give people second chances, but there are certain things that in my value system that I really can't get over. I think if you have a second ban, it should be for life.
Right. That I
Um,
agree on.
I,
I just don't think I can look at myself. I want to say again, sorry, Ricky, it's not about you. When I'm saying Ricky was 23 when it happened.
yeah,
If I look at the shit I did when I was 23 or younger than that, like I can't vouch for that right now. Like people
yeah.
change, you get older and you get more mature, and you know sometimes you have some people in your life that maybe gives you poor advice.
You're right, and I wish I was that good. I guess I'm just not that good. I struggle with that a lot.
Yeah,
I think sport brings out the best in some people, and sport brings out the worst in some people. So, I do think that people change. I think you're right. Like I do think people change. I think I just struggle with the idea of that. I think that the amount of rigor it would take for me to feel comfortable with someone being banned and coming back, I don't think it's just, I just don't think it's practical. Like to me, a ban, I don't know what happens in the ban. Like, I don't know if anybody knows. Maybe I'm, like I said, I'm kind of like off. I'm not that involved in the sport because I'm here, I'm alone. I do my thing here up in Canada in Montreal, but like what is the testing like when they're banned? Is it
yeah.
worse? Is it better? Is it a perfect opportunity to do all the things that will get you good and stop in time so that you can get the benefits and kind of wean off of it and still have some effects of that? Like, I
I
don't
did
know.
talk. I did talk to Ricky about that, and he was tested over the course of the 4 years. But no, our system is definitely not perfect, and it's not even close to being it. And there needs to be more testing. And yeah, but who's going to fund the testing? That's a big issue at the end of the
Yeah.
day. But again, it's nothing about Ricky. He's a good friend. He's right up there.
Yeah.
I do think you're right, though. Second positive drug test, it's 2 strikes and out for sure.
Yeah.
Should it
And
be 1 strike? There's arguments to be made for 1 strike and out. But then we go back to tainted supplements, and people are going to claim different stories. Again,
yeah, but the
Emily,
tainted
Emily Abbott
supplements
had
are
a
already being addressed. Like people with tainted supplements are getting decisions to be lightened because you can't just not ban them because they have this product in their
yeah,
system and it needs to be out of their system. I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know anything
no,
about that kind of stuff. But I do like there are solutions out there for sure. If you ask
yeah,
me, like once you get tested positive, you should be tested so regularly that you don't even like I
money,
know, a hundred
money.
percent. Like it's not a practical solution for this ethical problem that we have with sport. And the important thing is that they keep testing, but the reality is that you cannot catch everyone doing it,
No,
and it has to sit okay with you. Like in the world of sport, there's going to be people who take steroids. Man, there are people who take steroids in gyms because they don't like the way they look naked. So add in performance, add in self-consciousness, add in money, add
yeah.
in possible career of doing things that you think is what you love. Like there are people that are going to be doing it and they're going to be doing it better and not getting caught. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Lance
Um,
Armstrong was tested 1,200 times.
He what 1,200 times. Yeah. And he
1,200
got
times.
caught what? Once?
They claimed, the FBI claimed he was caught, and basically played a hand of poker and said, "We have a positive test." No one really knows if it's true, and he was like, "Yeah, maybe you do. You did test me a lot." Well,
Yeah.
this is another story for another day. Probably a Brent Fikowski conversation, I think. Yeah, and if people want to know why I was laughing when I talked about Emily Abbott, I would suggest you Google her explanation as to why she tested positive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Patrick Vellner. What
Yeah.
is um, what is Pat like as an athlete?
Extremely intelligent, complains for good reason, very diligent, very, very diligent, extremely disciplined. And he needs to understand why he does things. So I think he's a dream athlete to work with, despite him sometimes being a little bit short tempered. But I think that's the case for a lot of athletes. I was short tempered when I was an athlete, like this and that. But he's great. Like and when I have other athletes that we converse with, he takes on a mentorship role very well. So
Yeah.
he's great. He's really great in that sense. Very, very good.
Um, when you see Pat compete, when you see him train, when you see photos of him, Pat has, and in lack of a better word, resting bitch face. He seems like he doesn't care at all what he's doing at any time. And
No.
it's like you've even seen him win events. He's just like throws out his arms. I've never seen Pat like yell or the Matt Fraser fist pump is like it's and
Yeah.
I know Pat so well, so I can answer the questions. But I'm gonna ask you, you know him better. What's that about? Like, what's the fire? Where's the or at least the outgoing fire? I know it's in there.
Pat is a blue flame. Like
What? What does that mean?
he's a blue flame. Like, red flames, like explosions are red and they're big, but the hottest part of the flame is the blue flame, and it's really small, but it's like the hottest part. And it's like Pat is a very, very consistent flame, and he is motivated by little things. And so to me, like, you say you know him so well, you would answer, to be honest with you, I don't know why he doesn't celebrate more. I think that I can relate to it because, I mean, I never celebrated a whole lot either. And it comes down to Pat is an extremely respectful competitor as well. And I think that's a Canadian thing. Like it's just, he's just not that extravagant. Like, I don't know.
Oh,
It's,
behind the scenes, he's the best trash talker the field has ever seen. Or maybe Josh
oh,
Bridges. Josh Bridges and Pat is a tie.
yeah, totally. Pat blows off steam by making jokes and talking to competitors. That's how
Yeah.
he blows off his steam and reduces his stress before events. Um, but to be honest, like it's just how he is, and I think that's his trademark now, and he can't get away from it. He has had some good reactions in the last year. I think this last year was. I have some good footage of him with
Yeah.
some good reactions, but I think that there's a level of expectation that he has of his performances that are just like, I knew this was going to happen. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like when I was playing water polo, and I had a coach that told me, he's like, you should never celebrate after a goal because you should already know that ball went in the net. Like, you should know
Yeah.
every time you throw a ball, you should know it's going to go in. And so being surprised that you did so well shouldn't be a thing. But I don't know if that's how he sees it.
No.
All I know is that it's just like he knows when he's going to do well at something.
That might be his trademark. He has another trademark at the CrossFit Games. It's his event one finishes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat, you can take it. What the hell is up with Pat in event ones? It wasn't as bad this year though, but it's this year is
Yeah.
well
I
this year
had
because
never like really deep dived into it with him. My sense is that Pat performs really well under pressure.
well
I
you,
think I
I
think
think you
that's what
should
it is. I also think that traditionally, like that's kind of like there's a self-fulfilling prophecy like effect going on right now, because it's like event one thing, and that plays in your head no matter who you are. But traditionally, event ones have had swims, and Pat's not a good swimmer.
no.
So, I mean, we can say that it's the event one. I personally think it's more swimming. But
He there was also a bike.
yeah,
There was a
so
bike this
last
year.
year is kind of an exception to that. Like last year,
Yeah,
the bike event didn't go so well. I think that there was two things that happened. I think that was a misjudgment on our part, and I'll take the blame for that event. There was a misjudgment on how other people was able to withstand their power output. And the
yeah,
second thing that happened is that the way Pat was scheduled, like set to start in a mass start, like you watch the Tour de France, right?
yeah,
They
yeah,
have the
yeah,
leaders in the front,
yeah,
and then they have a rolling start, and there's
yeah.
a sense of order that happens. And after the rolling start, there's a sprint, and then people sit up.
Start virtual.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's a virtual start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Everything in the Tour de France is French. That's the most French I know.
yeah.
Uh, Tête de la course, peloton.
Yeah, there you go, le
Yeah,
peloton. But this time at the games, the peloton was literally clumped up. There was
Yeah.
no separation between the first line or the first athletes and the other athletes. And they started in a very short straight into a turn.
Yeah.
And he was in the middle. And so normally you would put the fastest in the inside in that case so that he can get the turn, but they put him in the middle. So, and this is something that Pat mentioned to me. I didn't get to see it, but like everyone kind of just went, and encircled Pat. So he got pushed back
Yeah.
pretty quick. So I think that's an unfortunate start to an event that's kind of like they tried to do this bike race. There was a virtual start with the games, but it wasn't very long.
No. To be
So
fair, from there to taking 27th, there's still a gap. Like that's an
yeah,
unfortunate incident, but I actually remember that race because it had Janikowski written all over it.
yeah,
But Jay Crouch and Jeff Adler and Roman was like they were hanging in there. And then on I think like the fifth lap, like 2 laps to go, I was standing near the finish line and Jana was coming towards me and he was leading the pack. And I'm like, I'm a little surprised he's not pulling away. And Jeffrey was dying. You could just see he was hanging on by a thread. And Jana looked at me and he winked at me. Like he was not working at all. It was like, all right, this is
yeah.
over. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I mean, Yana has good experience with those races, and Pat doesn't have a whole lot
yeah.
of experience with those races. And I'm only learning those types of events. And so, in a previous uh, bike event with the Toast Bar, um, I told Pat to try and stick with some people, and it just ended up really biting him in the butt. So we kind of tried to not do that again. So sometimes we'll make misses like that, and I'll fully take the blame for that event finish. But at the same time, they're all events that are high risk, and I think that Pat likes to start competitions a little slower.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a pattern, but to be fair, that pattern to me is something that just so happens with most of the time, the first events have been swimming events, and Pat's just not a good swimmer.
Has Pat ever had the leaders jersey? I don't think so, right?
No, he has not. That's a very good point.
He's the best. He's probably the best athlete never to have had the leaders jersey. You
Yeah,
know who? You know who had the leaders jersey once? BKG, but they made a miscalculation. So Janikowski was forced to wear it into the
I remember.
wall walks and thrusters, and Jana he had to wear it. He's like, wear it, or we're gonna kick you out. And he wore it, and as soon as he came in, he just threw it away, like because he
Yeah,
didn't want to. He felt disrespectful to his friend.
yeah. I think that's Yana's a great athlete. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, but the big question I think everyone wants to know is, and step away a little bit. And I know you're his coach, so there's a slight bit of nepotism. Of course, I'm his good friend, so it's impossible not to have that. Can Pat win the CrossFit Games 2024?
Oh man, it's impossible for me to step back from that. Because I know what his training looks like, like I know what
Yeah,
he does. Yes, yes. And realism is, in fact, not his age, but his lifestyle is something that could potentially slow him down. Like he just had his second baby, Ethan.
yeah,
And so that will slow anyone down. Um, Practically speaking, it's a lot to do. We have to remember, like, obviously his wife is on mat leave right now, but we have to remember that his wife is a doctor. So it's not like and they don't have consistent childcare. Like there's a lot going on. Pat is
yeah,
way more hands-on in his family and work life than
yeah.
some people may think. And to his merit, like I appreciate that a lot about Pat. That's probably one of the things that I love most about working with Pat is that he is such a um
He's a
he's a
full person.
realist,
Like,
he's a
yeah,
good person. He is fully in his life. Like it's not this blown up athlete that has this sense of um being above everybody and not taking care of his things and this that. He's like fully in it. So I respect that a lot, but I do think that he has what it takes to win the games. It's going to be extremely difficult, but Pat is so talented. Like Pat
one
is great, you know?
well 116 points. That is the gap between Jeffrey Adler and Patrick Vellner at the CrossFit
Yeah.
Games.
Yeah.
However, and people are going to say, well, that's too big a deficit that's like Matt Fraser type big deficit.
Yeah.
However, I'm now going to say he doesn't make the mistake on the bike. He sticks with the pack. He lost 71 points on the bike event to Jeffrey. And I have another event where I feel like he lost across the games. Do you know which one?
The rope climb event.
Alpaca Redux. Yeah. What happened was he failed the rope climb and then basically jumped from second place in the workout to, I think he finished around 20th.
Yeah. I think it was 18th or 16th.
Okay. Did
Yeah.
you, as a coach, have the wrong strategy? Did he, on the field of play, have the wrong strategy? Did he miscalculate?
No,
I've never seen Pat miss a rope climb.
he's never missed a rope climb. No, there was absolutely no wrong strategy there. I think it was actually just a freak thing. Like, I think the heat and the fact that the ropes were new.
Yeah.
Ropes are less chalked at the top; they're more oily. And I think that that like, and the worst part is that Pat is not an idiot. Even if
No.
he's good at something, he doesn't jump on thinking I can do this. Like, I'm going to pull this out of my ass. This is going to happen. Pat is
Yeah.
going to lose one or two places if he thinks that the move is too risky. He's extremely calculated like that. So when he went to the top of the rope, the first question I asked him was like, did you do it because you saw, I can't remember who was next to him, but there was a guy next to him that he was kind of like trying to beat. And I've seen him do that before where he
Yeah.
took a risk. I'm thinking of the rope climb event at the games in 2019 when he tried to beat Matt in the first ever CrossFit Games Open, and he took
Yeah.
a risk and it did not pay off. So I've seen him take those risks before. So I figured maybe he tried to do that and tried to solidify a ranking position. But he said to me straight up, like, no, like, I felt totally fine. And he felt his hand slip on that rope climb. And I think it's just his hand ripped and there was blood and his hand slipped.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows that, like, you'll slip a little bit, just a little bit on a legless rope climb, and that'll take every little bit of energy for you to
Yeah.
solidify. And he tried to go back up right away. And that just took it all out of him. And to be honest with you, yeah, he lost the CrossFit Games there, but he also solidified his podium spot by actually making the rope climb because he
Yeah.
made it back. Like, I've never seen anyone fail a rope climb like that and wait long enough to actually do it again.
No, because we saw a lot of people failing. Fabian Benito, basically, well, that was his end of his CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
Kept on trying.
So
I
yeah,
do want to say, though, that being said, I do feel like the right person won the CrossFit Games in 2023. Jeff was amazing across the weekend, and he just showed up so prepared and executed to a T, basically.
yeah.
But however, he only beat Pat in 12 events. He beat him 7-5. So it wasn't a blowout by any means. It was those two events that kind of, yeah.
I think, yeah. To be fair, I think if Roman hadn't broken his foot, like, Roman was so dominated. Like, he was so dominating. Like,
People are saying that he broke his foot after he lost the leader's jersey.
yeah,
He
well, I think that
he was losing that event, and that would have given Jeffrey the leader's jersey.
yeah. So in fairness, I don't follow that type of race. Like, I'm pretty focused on Pat, so I wasn't fully aware.
Sense.
But I think knowing the events that came out after, I don't know. Like, I think it would have been a really good fight to see.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a really good fight to see. But woulda, coulda, shoulda, whatever. Yeah. I mean, Jeff was surprising. Like I've always felt that Jeff had a lot of talent and he could do well at the games. It was just a matter of putting it together, and he put it together. So
I have a list here. I've written down 6 names. Jeffrey Adler, Ricky Gerard, Patrick Vellner, Justin Medeiros, Roman Krennikov, and Brent Fikowski. What do you think that list is for me?
I think that's the best athletes to be in the games in the Madison era.
No, I think these 6 names is the only 6 names that could win the CrossFit Games 2024.
Justin Medeiros is still there.
If you've won the games twice and I've only seen one bad performance, I'm still putting you on that list. I mean, Catherine's been out for a few years. So I wouldn't put her on a list or Annie for that standard. But I can't write him off for one season. Like,
Well, I saw like I don't want to. It's nothing against Justin. Like I don't know Justin very well. I think he's fine. I don't know. I think there have been. It's not like it's to me. It's not like the performance. It's the how. I wouldn't not like I wouldn't not put him in that list. I don't like I'm not as convinced as that he's still got it to break that. I don't know.
well, to be
Maybe
fair,
maybe
if I have to make the list, if I have to cut two people from the list and to make it
yeah.
from 6 to 4, him and Brent are going off the list.
Mhm.
But the way Brent showed up at Waterpalooza actually made me put him back on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, he's pretty
Yeah,
good. I mean, um it's going to be interesting to see with the new programming change yet again what's going to
yeah.
come of it because Dave has a whole style and if we can refer to his previous styles like maybe yeah, Justin is a pretty strong guy.
Do you feel like if we end Pat's career right now today, did he? Do you think people will look back and say, "Well, there's that one thing missing"? He did go toe to toe with the greatest of all time for quite a few years, and hard to beat Matt. That's no one ever did it. So Rich did actually, and Ben
Yeah.
did. But do you feel like there will always be this asterisk of, well, he didn't win the games?
Oh, people have such short memory, Nico.
Oh no, I don't. But yeah, I'm
Well,
asking
yeah,
for
you're a journalist in the sport.
general pub. Yeah,
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Like, I wouldn't care. I think Pat has had a remarkable career. I think Pat's had, um, like, I think Pat's had probably one of the best careers. Like, winning the games is a lot harder than people think. Like, not just winning, but like mentally and like your lifestyle and things like that. Like the things that come with swimming. Like, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't look back at his career and think that ever. I think that people really enjoy Pat, and I think that Pat transpires something to people that goes beyond just being a winner of the CrossFit Games. So I like, yeah, people will probably say, "Oh, if only if," but like, what does it matter? Like, it's not
yeah.
important.
I do
It's not
feel like,
important for
well,
them. It's a
I feel like
wish.
yeah, I feel like regardless of what happens, he is the third best CrossFit Games athlete of all time. And
Third best.
yeah, I'm sorry, but Matt and Rich are above him.
I put him above Rich, but
What?
no offense, Rich.
He won 4 in a row and won the team. All right, that's
Yeah,
another.
I don't know. I don't know.
All
I think,
right.
yeah,
This, if you listen to this, is Wednesday, and tomorrow the season starts.
yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. Dave Castro posted a mushroom on his Instagram, so we're
Oh,
back to doing that apparently.
I
Um,
wouldn't mind that.
what's your expectations of this upcoming season? Do you think about it at all, or just like
I
go
don't
with
think
it?
about it that much. I'm not there yet because the athletes that I coach directly are like a little bit further down the line. So I'm not like really thinking about it yet. I'm very excited to see. I'm excited to see the workouts like for the open because I think Dave is programming them now. That's kind of a little bit flippy floppy, but I don't know. I'm hoping to see something different. Like, I'm excited to see what the semis are going to be like. So, yeah, I'm excited about this season. What I'm very curious about is the games in Texas. Like, I'm very
Yeah,
curious about that. I have like not like my expectations aren't extremely high for that one, but yeah, I'm excited. Just like any year, it's very exciting. It's a good time of year to. The open is like it's fun, it's community based. Like obviously the investment that I have isn't the same as it used to be. Like I do the workouts scaled and I look at the workouts more on as a coach. So
why?
they're huh?
Why do you do them scaled?
Because a lot of the weights I can't lift anymore.
Huh, there you go.
last
Is
year
Pat doing a
last
live
year I did
announcement?
them RX, but I didn't get very far. But I haven't been very consistent with like weightlifting training lately. So I just don't want to. I don't want to risk anything for the open. Like, but yeah,
Is Pat doing a live announcement?
he is not.
He's not.
Pat's wife just gave birth, and I think
Yeah,
he told me that he had been asked to do one, but because his wife was like due during that
yeah,
time, he said no. Which is,
yeah.
I mean, the open announcement's fun, but it's not absolutely necessary.
All right, Michelle, I'm gonna let you go now. But before we go, tomorrow someone's gonna announce. We don't really know if Dave's gonna announce it or what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
What is 24.1?
Hmm. Oh my God. You know, if there's one thing you learn about being in CrossFit for so long is that you don't guess anymore. Um,
What do you think it should
that-
be?
what should it be?
Yeah,
You know, I love workouts. I love the first workouts when they're weightlifting gymnastics. Like, I love that. Like snatches and bar facing burpees, snatches and pull ups, like thrusters and box jumps. I love couplets like that to start the
yeah,
competition. I find them really classic and traditional and easy to implement. So I'm hoping it's a couplet, and I'm hoping it's a couplet that's like in the 12-minute mark.
yeah. The classic CrossFit mark.
Yeah.
Michelle, I'm gonna wish you and Pat the best of luck during the season. If not before, I will definitely see you in Texas. Never been there before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, funny, I've been in Fort Worth and it is freaking hot. So
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be good for Pat. Uh,
bring a personal fan just to walk from the
yeah.
parking lot to the center. Just bring a fan.
Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nico.